Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another video. And this afternoon, I've got the 18 movies I watched in March. So, there's a lot of new movies on here, of course. There's movies on here that I've watched a few times before, and a couple that I've never seen. Obviously. So, let's go ahead and get started before I make this video way too long. And the first movie I watched in March was Creed 3. And this released March 3rd. And this is kind of like the concluding chapter, maybe, to Creed. And this pits a childhood best friend of his named Damon. And it's just your typical Creed movie. It's just about in the ring. And there was also a production issue with Sylvester Stallone. He's actually not in this movie. But I definitely felt that gap without Sylvester Stallone in this movie. And this one was just okay to me. It's probably one that I'll probably never watch that often. And it's got a very controversial, it's got a controversial final ring battle. There we go. And it's kind of like set up like anime, because Michael B. Jordan had some anime influence. And this final scene was kind of the weakest one to me. It's really not memorable. But I just thought that this one was just okay. If you want my full thoughts, I do have a full review on my channel, so check it out. That was Creed 3. The next movie I watched was the original My Bloody Valentine. And this movie was released in 1981. And it is a Canadian film. I watched it and I definitely knew that it was Canadian because I caught up all of the accents. But this is the story about a small mining town in Canada that is haunted by this apparent miner who died 20 years ago, and they're afraid that he might be back to kill everybody. So the teens decide to go party in the mine for Valentine's Day. And of course, it's a typical slasher, so get a lot of blood and guts. And I had a lot of fun with this one. But I have a guilty pleasure towards the 2009 remake. That one is actually a real decent remake. So yeah, that was My Bloody Valentine, 1981. Followed by the original Scream. And you'll know where this is going. So this is the classic 1996 horror directed by Wes Craven. And this is about a teenage girl being hunted by a masked killer who takes his love for horror movies too far. So we know that there is a very big twist in this one, and there's actually two killers. Very excellent movie. Seen it millions upon millions of times. And this is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. So that was Scream. Naturally, Scream 2 And this was released a year later in 1997. And this picks up where Sidney Prescott is now in college, and she's being hunted by Ghostface again. But this time, it is a crazy film student and Billy Loomis's mother. So it's just another very, very decent Scream sequel. That was Scream 2. Scream 3. This one picks up 3 years after the second one in Hollywood, and now Ghostface is out to kill all of the cast members of Stab 3. But this is the introduction of Sidney's brother, and he is the only Ghostface killer. It's definitely the weakest one of the series, but I still highly enjoy it. That was Scream 3. And if you want my full ranking of all the Scream movies, I also made a video for that. But continuing on, Scream 4. And this is the new era of Scream. And this introduces new characters, and it also brings back the Holy Trinity. So this time, Sidney's cousin, Jill, is the Ghostface killer. And she's definitely not the only female Ghostface killer. But this one starts off with like 2 fake openings to some Stab movies, and then it picks up to where we know Scream. I think those openings are very clever, but they are kind of cheesy the more times I watch this. But this one is a very underrated sequel, and I really do enjoy it. But it did go down on my ranking. For a while, this is my second favorite Scream movie. But then, Scream 6 came out. But yeah, I really do enjoy this one. Again, if you want my full thoughts on all 6 Scream movies, check out my ranking. Moving on to Scream 2022 or Scream 5. And this is the next line of Scream movies that started last year. Of course, they released Scream 6 in March, so we got another one of these coming out sometime probably next year, I would say. But this brings back everybody else, and you are also introduced to 2 sisters who take over the reins. You also get the death of Dewey. At first, I really thought that this movie was just passable, but the last couple times I watched it, it really brought back that nostalgia for the original, because this goes back to basics, and it's still a really, really good one. So that was Scream 2022. Which leads me into Scream 6. And this was released on March 10th. And I saw this the Thursday before it came out. And I gotta say, I had a lot of fun with this one. This is actually, as of now, my second favorite Scream movie, because this one did what Jason Takes Manhattan did not. Because New York is completely a character in this film. And this is the new killing grounds for Ghostface and all of his victims. I really did enjoy this one, but the final reveal to me was kind of forced. You'll see my thoughts about that in that video I made. So I'm not going to get into much spoilers, but let's just say I knew who the killers were. So if you want to go check out Scream 6, go do it. I highly recommend it. And moving on from there, the next movie I watched is probably one of my most disappointed flicks that I've watched this month. 65. What was this movie? It was basically about this alien who looks like a human who goes to Earth 65 million years ago, and he encounters dinosaurs, and he also finds a little girl that he needs to protect. And then you just have that generic point A from point B trope. This movie was highly forgettable, and I kind of like slept through 75% of it. This movie needed to be awesome, but I just didn't care for it. So that was 65. And the next movie I watched is going to be Shazam. And, of course, Shazam! Fury of the Gods came out this month. So I just rewatched this one. And I also have a dual review on this one and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. But this was the second time I ever watched this movie. And it is one of the better DCEU movies. It's just about this kid named Billy Batson who encounters the powers of Shazam. He's just basically like a knockoff Superman. And he's up against the actor is Mark Strong. Savannah, yeah. There we go. But yeah. Savannah has like the 7 deadly sins in his eye, and he just becomes the villain for Shazam. And this movie has a lot of heart, and it has a lot of humor. And then later you also get the family of Shazam. And I really did enjoy that dynamic as well. So if you want my full thoughts on these 2 movies, check out that video. But that was Shazam. Followed by Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And this was the, I don't want to say much anticipated sequel, but this movie was delayed quite a few times. And I know a lot of people crapped on it. It's actually one of the lowest rated DC EU movies. And it's one of the least profitable DC EU movies. So this one was very decent, but it's just in the middle of superhero fatigue. And this just picks up a few years later, and you have like these 3 Greek goddesses that want to make their world a better place using Philadelphia. So you have Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Zegler as the three villainesses. I really thought that these characters were really well fleshed out, but Lucy Liu actually took up the reins a little bit more, and she's kind of like the big bad. I overall had fun with this, but it does get very generic. But it's not as bad as everybody is putting it out to be. But that was Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Followed by Champions. And this is a new basketball comedy drama featuring Woody Harrelson. He's like this assistant coach of a Division J basketball league, and he gets into like a drunk driving incident, and now he is forced to do community service. So he picks up a job to coach this center for disabled people. I really did have fun with this one. It's a comedy that we've seen quite a few times, like The Mighty Ducks, Remember the Titans. Well, Remember the Titans isn't really a comedy, but you get the gist. But anyway, this one was very heartfelt, and it was funny and very touching at the same time. And that was Champions. Followed by John Wick. And I did review all these movies individually and ranked the franchise. So I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis. This is the introduction to John Wick, which is like a retired assassin who just recently lost his wife, and now there's a gang of Russian mobsters after him. They kill his dog and they steal his car, and he just goes on a path of revenge. This movie is definitely one of the best action films ever made, and it's such a simple concept, but it is done to perfection. I love this movie, but there is another movie on here that I think is better. I'll get to that soon, but that was John Wick. Followed by John Wick Chapter 2. And this movie gets a little bit bigger in scale, and he now goes to Rome to take out a crime boss called D'Antonio. So this one is still a great movie, but it is definitely the weakest in my opinion. But that was John Wick Chapter 2. And this also sets up the events of Parabellum, of course, because at the end, a bounty comes on his head, leading into John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. And this one is the biggest one before Chapter 4. So you see a lot more action scenes in here. They are breathtaking, but I think this one really went down for me in the ranking. But I really did enjoy this one when I first saw it, and this was the very first movie I reviewed on my channel, so it's definitely got a little bit of throwback for me. But I really did enjoy this one. It's got very breathtaking action sequences, especially the library fight, of course, and John Wick on a horse battling two motorcyclists. But that was John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Followed by John Wick Chapter 4. And this is the best movie of the year so far for me, and easily the best of the John Wick franchise as a whole. This movie, for its mammoth runtime, was definitely bombastic and just gigantic. I mean, this is all or nothing for John Wick. And you definitely feel that finality because John Wick is still on the run from the assassins. And then he goes up against the Marquis de Gramo, played by Bill Skarsgård. And he's just the leader of this major French assassin tactical team. So everybody is out to get John Wick once and for all. And then it leads to a duel to determine who gets free from the head table. This movie is perfect, and I can't find anything wrong with it. So if you want my full thoughts, the video is on my channel. And that wraps up my John Wick series. But I still have 4 more movies to go. The next movie I watched was Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. And I actually did see this last Sunday as a special preview. And I also filmed a review. So if you want my full thoughts, check it out. But this is the movie about like a band of misfits up against a corrupted kingdom and a red witch. Now, I'm not a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, but anybody that has minor fantasy interest, like me, I do like Lord of the Rings quite a bit, and this definitely has Lord of the Rings vibes, but it's a very, very small scale film. And I thought this movie was going to be passable, but it's actually a really decent film, and I really did enjoy it. So that was Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Followed by my 2 guilty pleasure movies, Piranha 3D. And this movie was released in 2010. And this is just about a group of spring breakers in Arizona. And underwater earthquake wakes up piranha that were extinct 2 million years ago. So now it is a buffet for the piranha and a lot of college spring breakers. This movie is very fun, very gory, and very sexy. Yeah, it really is. But I really did enjoy this one. I've seen it quite a few times. I was just bored one Sunday and I just threw it on. And then I did Piranha 3 Double D. Yeah. So this is the sequel And this one takes place at a water park run by David Koechner, which is like this typical horn dog that just opens up an adult pool, and he just has like literally porn stars in the pool area. And this movie is just makes my head hurt. So I would definitely want to tell you about that infamous death scene for David Koechner. Near the end of the movie, he gets on an ATV, and you think that he survives, but there's like this sharpened wire or something. He gets decapitated, and his head flies off and lands in between this busty chick's chest, and he just gets a motorboat. Yeah. I just had to go there. But it's definitely one of the most grossest, awesomest deaths I've ever seen in a horror movie. But it is just over the top. I mean, come on. So yeah. And not to mention, there is also an appearance from David Hasselhoff. And he's just making a guest appearance. And there's also a lot of Baywatch jokes for him. This movie is definitely not Oscar worthy, but I have a lot of fun with it, even though it is god awful. But moving on, the final movie I watched for March, and I just watched this on Friday. I watched Play Misty for Me. And this movie was released in 1971, and this is Clint Eastwood's directorial debut. And this is like a thriller that has this crazed fan call into Clint Eastwood's radio station, and she wants him to play Misty for him, which is like a soft jazz song. And then the relationship gets crazier. She starts stalking him, and then it just ends up where Clint Eastwood kicks her out of a window. This movie was definitely the product of the 70s, but I had a lot of fun with it. So that wraps up the 18 movies I watched in March. This is one of the best movie months that I've ever had in a while, because I practically went to a movie like every weekend, and there was only one that I really didn't care for. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. My next video I want to film will be my 4 Past Midnight ranking and review. I actually did finish that Thursday, whatever day. But I'll bring you that probably tomorrow. And then I also want to do a Super Mario Brothers movie review. But I'll try and see what happens throughout the week. I actually got to go to the dentist on Thursday to get out a couple of my wisdom teeth, so I probably won't feel all that well that day. But I'll try and get that video out as soon as Friday. And then I also want to do an Evil Dead run through leading up to Evil Dead Rise. Then there'll be a Renfield review. There might be a Pope's Exorcist review. And then there is also Big George Foreman coming out at the end of this month. So I still have quite a bit to film. And yeah, just look forward to what I have in April. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios. Peace.